Talladega is known to be a wild card. Is there anything you can plan for in the super speedway races?
The more that we race at these restrictor plate tracks, the more they become unpredictable, to not be predictable. I don't even know what I said. It kind of sounded right, but again, there is no constant in these super speedway races. I was running fourth behind William Byron with 15 laps to go, a few weeks ago for that the playoff cutoff race to get in, and he peels off in pits, and I'm like, where's he going? That's the stupidest call I've ever seen. We just now bumped up a row. After the restart, I was leading the inside lane, and then I get wiped out in a wreck the next lap. And there he is with fresh tires, just navigating through everybody, and comes home and comes back and wins it after he pitted from third place with 15 laps to go. That's how nuts all the restrictor plate races have turned into being.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt.
Chase Elliott was asked, at a track like Talladega, are you focused on winning more or stage points?
Stage points are huge, and everybody knows that now. But I mean, hey, 10, 20 points in a stage, I mean, that's a ton. So I think everybody knows how important the stages are and what they can mean, especially stage wins. With getting that extra bonus point is a huge thing too. So I think everybody knows that, and that's certainly a game that's misplayed. I don't know that it was as much played that very first year that we had this, but really ever since that first year, I think it has been known, and everybody really gets that, and it's just gotten more and more aggressive. I feel like as time has gone on to perform well at stages, so I think it makes it important to run good throughout the entire race. And I thought that our stage, results in Richmond and Bristol were good, and that was really what allowed us to get through. So I haven't moved to the mindset of Talladega. I mean, the way I kind of look at it is I'm probably going to crash. I think that's just the odds probably point that direction. Hope not, but I'd say anything more than crashing, just the icing on top is how I'm going to look at it.
Martin Truex Jr. was asked, what kind of strategy can you have going into Talladega? Zoom. I made a race car noise to end it off.
I think the one thing that's always been part of it, I guess, is the unknowns and the opportunities for things to happen that you necessarily don't want to be a part of. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I think really the strategy has changed to, with the manufacturers all working together and pitting together and trying to come up with, the best strategy to run their race to try to, not only give themselves the best chance to win, but also, I think, stay out of trouble. And, it seems like when you have, those packs of, manufacturers working together, there's less chance for the big crashes to happen. Ultimately, it always comes down to, a caution, a restart, the field bunched up, and, whether it's, in the middle of the race going for a stage win or stage points, or at the end going for the win, it always seems like that's when the chaos happens. So you're never really too far out of the dangerous waters at the super speedways. But, in general, I feel like, guys have more strategy involved than they used to, where it used to be just go out and race and try to keep yourself at the front. Now there's a lot more to it. But at the end, I think it's all the same. And, hopefully for us, we'll go have a good race there.
The game plays right here.
Are you ready for some football?
Yeah! Your sports leader, WOHS Shelby, WLO in Lincoln, and WCSL Cherryville Gastonia.
Hello, this is Milton Baker inviting you to listen to NASCAR Racing right here on WCSL 1590 AM, 92.3 FM, and KTCBroadcasting.com.
And welcome back to the show. Kevin Hastings along with Terry Reinhardt and Hunter Yancey and Tom Cinefani. JP's in the house. There was your NASCAR minute. Sorry that you couldn't hear Chase a little bit. I didn't get the background music dialed back enough. That was my son reading off the questions this week for the NASCAR drivers after last week's race in Vegas. I'm here to pat myself on the back, guys. I picked Kurt Busch last week. There we go.
He held him off, but you know what? He got lucky because it was one of those where the pit cycle started and you get a caution.
Yeah,
that's just luck. Sometimes you just get lucky. And then
racing
he was
is weird in some ways, and in timing on certain things. It's how Cole Custer wins a race, or some of these other guys.
Jimmy doesn't win a race.
Kyle Busch
doesn't.
Now,
win
who
a
was right on
race.
Bush's tail at the end of that race? It was almost caught him. Somebody was right there on his heels and couldn't get around him. I can't remember who finished second in that race.
Well, I was about to say I could have pulled that up in the last 2 minutes while we were listening to the things.
But when I was watching it,
DiBenedetto was second.
I thought he was going to catch him, but he really drove well the last few laps.
What's funny about DiBenedetto? It's on Twitter yesterday. His wife tweeted out, "Are you okay over there?"
What did you just say?
He drove well
for the last few laps. He was in the final lap on the last lap. He drove well all day.
No,
he had a chance, Tom, when he got to the end.
But I'm just saying that they couldn't get around. I thought he was going to get around. I thought DiBenedetto had a better car. Is what I'm saying. They're at the end of the race.
So DiBenedetto,
see what I'm saying?
DiBenedetto's wife yesterday tweeted out that she told Matt that he could get a dirt bike for him and his son
if he won.
If he got into the final 8.
Oh.
And so, like, the very next day of him qualifying for the 8, she tweets out the brand new picture of the motorcycle. Like, it was no discussion. There was no way. He was like, I made it the very next morning. He was at the motorcycle shop.
Oh, there you go.
He had a brand new motorcycle.
Why is it bad? Why is it bad to compliment somebody the way they drove at the end of the race?
It's okay, Tom.
You're trying to say he should have drove well the whole race.
Mean, if there's 500 laps.
And he's there at the top.
And you were there on 500, and you've drove every one of them. You've had a pretty good day.
There was 268
It was especially
laps.
good at the end of the race. How about that?
Okay.
Especially well.
There we go.
I thought he should have got passed.
All kinds of NASCAR news to get into and talk about. How about the Chevys, Terry, have announced Hendricks and I think Ganassi Childress, Hendricks and Childress, that they will be combining motor shops and working together like the Toyotas and Fords have been the last few years. So maybe this is why, or that's why, the Chevys have been a little behind. So they're going to actually work on the engines and everything together between Childress and Hendricks. So maybe that's good news for the Chevy folks, even though Jimmy's getting out. I saw him practicing the other day, watching Scott Dixon at the Indy 500 road course. Now let's talk about those, Terry, in just a minute. We're going to get to all that changes, but we'll finish up this weekend. Busch was first, DiBenedetto, Hamlin, Truex, Bowman, Kyle Busch, Blaney, Eric Jones, Buescher, and Harvick. Now, I even specifically said last week, Kurt Busch, Vegas is a good track for him. You can't count on Talladega at all. And the road course, depending on where they put you in qualifying and everything, that's also going to be a little bit different. So I thought Kurt could win. Did a good job. Led 29 out of the 268. Hamlin led the most, though, at 121. So there's your kind of recap there on that. So where the playoff set is Kurt Busch is into the next round. Harvick, Hamlin, Keselowski, Truex, and Logano finish off the top 6. Elliott and Bowman are in the next 2 spots to get knocked out. Right now, Kyle Busch is 9 spots behind Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Bowyer 20. Amarola is 27. And Austin Dillon 32. Kyle can sneak in, Terry, because it's not only Bowman, it's Elliott at 10, Logano 11. Any of those guys wreck and Kyle finishes the race, he can get in front of them. Same with Truex and Keselowski. He ain't catching Hamlin and Harvick. Let's take his scenarios. Basically, if he finishes second, he can get in if any of those 4 guys, Bowman, Elliott, Truex, or Logano, wrecks or finishes 25th or worse, which is kind of hard to do when you got a good car at Talladega. They'll probably finish in the top 15, I would imagine.
Most of the time. I think it's another one of them races you're going to come down to the very end to see what happens. I give Kyle Busch a lot of credit this past week. A lot of people say, well, he ended up really with a bad day. Not really. Them last 2 laps, he picked up 6 points because he was 15, and then in the last 2 laps, he picked up where he's only 9 back. Now, anything can happen at Talladega. I love it. I love how that's set in there. I love the Roval. I don't like the Roval as a person, but I like how it's set up as an elimination race.
Mm-hmm.
I do like that part of it.
Okay.
The Talladega's the same way. I like those in there. They have to be in there. You can't have just regular old going around in circles and everything's to your handy dandy.
The
in
mile
a
and a half have turned into crew chief races.
It is. That's what I'm saying. You got to have something to make them do more.
And it is tough with the guys, and I think that's what they're kind of doing with this schedule, Terry. This week in Talladega, I mean, can you even have a favorite at Talladega, or is it just?
Well, I mean, you can.
There's no qualifying.
You pick the guy that you pick, but he's going to be there. He should be.
I mean, I could just as well pick Jimmy or Kyle as I can Harvick or Hamlin or any of them to win at Talladega.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so random here. Now, let's talk about one quick other thing before we get to the schedule. Chad Knaus announces he's basically retiring. He's going to be working in the management part of Hendricks. I guess he's going to be working in part with this combination with the engine stuff too, Terry.
I think it's a lot more time for him to be at home with his wife and stuff like that.
He's been doing it for 20 some years. Was it 800 races he's been a crew chief? Fans are asking if him and Jimmy's going to do the last race together. Jimmy said probably more than likely not.
Yeah.
So for fans wanting that, it's probably not going to happen. Dale, we're going to talk Dale Jr.'s fantasy tracks in just a second. All right, Hunter. So this is what we're going to do. So here's I'm gonna give you guys the breakdown of what the schedule ended up doing. So they'll be going to new facilities. One is the Circuit of the Americas, Road America, which is in Austin, Texas. It's a road course, Terry. It's hot. From what I've read, everybody likes this place. Like, I haven't seen anybody say anything bad or the NASCAR cars won't work or anything. Everybody's like, this is a fantastic idea. Rodney Childers is on board, Harvick's crew chief. There. The other one is Nashville Super Speedway. And it's not the one that the fans want. They want the short track, but they're going to the other place, but they think maybe they're coming into the town to work their way and get that other one up and ready. What do you think about those two? Have you ever seen any race on either one of them, Terry?
No, I have not.
I haven't either.
I have not on either place. But when you're getting rid of a few tracks, I mean, some of the people at them places, I mean, you have to understand that's money. Mm-hmm. And that's money for people who had extra jobs, or that's what they did to make extra money. And
so Kentucky and Chicago is
are the ones that's gone. Yeah.
Chicago is aimed by the same people that owned Atlanta, I think, and Atlanta got that date. Indianapolis is going from the oval, the square. It's really more of a square almost.
Why are you doing that?
To the road course, and they're going to. So Indianapolis that same weekend will have 2 races on their road course. The Indy 500 is thinking about doing it at some point, but they're not yet. But they will have 2 races that weekend on the road courses. Terry, a lot of people have not liked the racing at the Brickyard. Harvick won the last one. Gordon won the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen tire issues. There Goodyear has a problem having those tires hold that weight in those sharp corners. Like the Indy cars, they turn.
Okay, fix it.
Yeah, I know that, but that's been one issue, and so that's one of the things. And then the drafting there as well. So they're changing that up. Darlington gets a second race, as does Atlanta. Part, I think, which they're not saying, those are both within driving distance of all the shops. Like 3.5 hours, well, 4 probably from Atlanta in the trucks. To get down to the speedway in about 2 or hour and a half to 2. Yeah. Maybe.
Congratulations to Darlington, because
I can't
just
believe
a few
that.
years back it was almost done.
Well, you drive by the track. I mean, you think I've been thinking for years it's just going to be any time now that they're just going to cancel it because there's nothing really around it.
I know, but I like it.
But it's tradition. It's tradition.
Yes.
You can't get rid of that.
The track's great, but you just wonder, Terry. You go to places like Vegas or Atlanta or Charlotte that even Atlanta's like almost in the middle of nowhere where it's at, but at least they're talking about putting a casino and stuff out there as part of this one, of that move of adding that second one. But the Darlington thing, that blows my mind as far as money. I think that's 100% a we're close by, let's save some money maybe type thing. Because it's weird, I thought they'd be closing at some point. I'm glad they're not. I like Darlington.
I like Darlington myself.
So Michigan loses a points race. Texas Motor Speedway and Dover are all losing a points race, whatever that means. So All-Star race moves to Texas.
We said last week, and I don't mind that. I don't mind an all-star race changing every year, going to a different place. It's like Major League Baseball when you move it. You know,
Right.
I mean, I have no trouble with none of
Or
that.
basketball does the same thing.
No trouble.
Okay. Now, a little bit talk real quick, guys, about
I think
this.
the Pro Bowl should move.
Yeah,
They ought to play it in a
instead of
cold.
all
They
the way.
need to play it in a cold
That's
weather.
just for the
Cold weather.
players.
Didn't they
That's
just-
just a bottom line for the
Yeah.
players.
How many
I know.
didn't they
Have
try it
fun.
like 2 years?
They
at
did
the Super
one
Bowl location?
Yeah, I think they just did them. I think last year was the one, or the year before was in Florida.
Yeah.
They didn't quite go all the way out to Hawaii.
You know, and I understand nobody's going to go out there and try to take somebody else's head off, but it's so bad. It's so
They need to put
bad.
some
It's
money
just,
on it.
it's just not
How many
even.
times do you watch? How many times?
I
and
never
this
watch
is
it.
me.
I don't.
I never
Ever
watch
since
it.
they started all this, I cannot remember a whole game that I watched.
Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it
Not
doesn't mean
one.
anything.
In the history of my lifetime, I've never watched a whole Pro
I think
Bowl
the only
game.
ones I've watched is the All-Star race, like All-Star wise. I watched the All-Star race because I'd like to go to it when
Yeah.
it was in Charlotte. I'd like to go to it.
Yeah, I've been to that a couple
And
times.
then I will watch the MLB All-Star game.
Yeah.
I don't watch the NBA All-Star game because that is just no defense. And same thing with
Well,
the Pro Bowl for football. Nobody tries.
But they tried some stuff with the Pro Bowl, like to let Deion Sanders and what was it,
Yeah.
Michael Irvin draft teams and all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, they give them credit for trying to make it interesting, but
Yeah.
it's just
Either give
just-
them a purse that they can win
yeah.
to make
Yeah,
them
or
play
something.
hard,
Yeah.
or let them all play flag, and I want to watch the linemen catch passes and run and stuff.
Yeah,
That'd be fun
yeah,
to watch.
something
That would be
to
fun.
do.
All right, here's some explanation of what's going on with the Bristol stuff. Y'all bear with me while I read a little bit. While the casual audience seems fascinated by the prospects of a dirt race at Bristol, popular sentiment among traditional fans is they should have simply pursued a day at a regular track like Eldora or Knoxville and not sacrifice one of the 4 existing races on a paved half mile in the name of an experiment. But again, Bristol Speedway officials wanted to inject a sense of novelty. They've been having 38,000 people in a 60,000 seat stadium, so it looks more empty, and they don't like it. So they want to
do something
add,
new to attract some fans. Makes
Right.
perfect sense.
It used to be. I'm telling you, you used to not be able to get a ticket at Bristol.
At
Like
any
you had to
time.
get it a couple years ahead of time. You used to not be able to get a ticket to that race.
So here's the thing: you guys may not know, or most people might not know, the who owns the race dates. So there are people who actually own the weekends, basically, for NASCAR racing. Each date is currently held by some combination of NASCAR, Speedway Motorsports, Dover Motorsports, Madco, or Indianapolis Motor Speedway. These dates are fiscally valuable because they generate revenue from Cup Series TV contracts each season. For a new venue to appear, that track will either need to be leased out, outright sold, or its owners to somehow obtain a date from the track owners that I just listed above. NASCAR has entered into a lease agreement for Road America next season, and SMI has done the same with the Circuit of the Americas. The dirt decision was the result of fan feedback, according to Bristol Motor Speedway general manager. He says the topic routinely come up over the past 2 decades. They did World of Outlaws back in 2000, 2001. The average overall 85,000 people attended the World of Outlaws events, dirt racing there at the Speedway. So they're just talking about here, putting it together. Let's see. Brad Keselowski previously owned a truck series. Here's the thing about the tires, I believe, is where he's going. And he says the tire package that Goodyear brought to Eldora isn't going to cut it at Bristol. He said the tire is the big question. If they're going to bring a tire like they brought for the truck races, he would be disappointed. If they bring a very high quality dirt tire, I think it could be an amazing race. So that's from Keselowski talking about that they didn't put the right tires on them last time. They got to work on that, basically. So with that said, that doesn't affect the Cup cars being heavier, obviously, than the later cars. We're talking about the weight. So it's there. There's nothing else to talk about other than we're going to see dirt racing in Bristol next year, guys. Whether you think you might like it or not, they're trying different things, Hunter.
Whether you like it or not, people are going to watch.
People are going to watch.
Yeah, people are going
These
to watch.
single car teams, just like we said last week, are going to have dirt track drivers be in their cars.
I don't think so.
Wait and see. It happened when it's doing the road courses. Boris said, do you hear Boris saying no more? You don't even hear him.
That's back in the 90s, though.
That was back in the 90s when they first started putting those tracks in. That's what's going to happen here.
I don't think
and this is going to last 5 to 10 years of guys getting used to it. Do you think Kurt Busch and all of them jump on a dirt track all the time? No, they don't do that.
They got talent.
But they got a lot of people in their car, so they're never going to get out of it. It's those single car guys who don't have a chance to win a race are going to go get somebody for that race because they're not competing for a championship. If you're 25th and back, why not go get somebody?
Well,
tell me.
This was a smart move by NASCAR. This was a smart move by NASCAR. Smart move by Bristol. And the reason why it's a smart move is because I'm not too worried about the drivers, whether or not he gets the drive or not that day. They have to go out and get somebody else. What did he just say? They don't like it looking empty. What did you just say? You asked kids at your school when we were at break who their favorite NASCAR driver is. Some of them don't even know what NASCAR is, probably.
And that just shocking.
And so,
it's really
what
shocking.
do you have to do? That's why I've said NASCAR needs
bring
to
dirt track in.
You got to do something interesting to get the eyes of some people that wouldn't normally tune in.
Let me make the pair. This baseball
this baseball format had more.
Even
people
the traditionalists are saying, "I don't like this. I don't like this." But boy, it was fun. And I think that NASCAR is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And if baseball's smart, they'll keep it because it's been interesting. And NASCAR is trying to get the young people back in.
We have to remember that these are we call them sports, but they're an entertainment business, and how they make their money is off of eyes and ears being able for people to tune in and watch, and that gets advertisers to say, "Oh, I would like to put money towards your brand."
Because if NASCAR keeps going the way it is, 20 more years, I don't know if they can sustain it.
I don't think though the Bristol's the place to do that.
Okay, if it's not Bristol, though, would you be upset, though, if it was just anywhere else?
If you go to Texas or somewhere that's a mile and a half, they put that out there
that's
on
a
that.
lot of dirt.
Well,
I meant to say, that is a lot.
Okay.
That's a lot of dirt.
That is a lot.
Okay,
but
who cares?
So are you more upset about the fact that it's at Bristol or the fact that they're...
small tracks, because you got enough stuff happening in small tracks without having to bring in dirt.
Okay. So you don't hate the idea, though?
No, I could take that anywhere else.
Okay. Cool.
You know?
So if it was anywhere else other than Bristol,
so if they did Charlotte, you'd be cool with it.
That's cool. But Charlotte's a big old racetrack. Put it out there.
Old racetrack.
You
know what I'm saying?
What if we did a half dirt, half pavement like the Roval does, like a Roval, like it's half.
Well, don't say that, Kevin. It'll happen next week.
I was looking. Have you looked? I was showing.
What if they only did Bristol that way, and then the turns 1 and 2, you're hard
oh my God,
going into the corner, and then
did you see what I was trying to show you? That pattern at Talladega and the patterns that they have worked out for these. It's going to be tough. I'm just telling you, man.
But see, NASCAR has to do something right now that has to be eye grabbing to people that don't always tune into it, because it is one of those things I found, when I talk to people that love to watch NASCAR and enjoy watching NASCAR, their family, they grew up around NASCAR. But a lot of people, a lot of parents, they don't just watch NASCAR, they watch, traditional ball sports if they even are into sports. And so a lot of people, if you're just trying to grab more eyes and get more people to the track, like it sounds like Bristol wants to do, because they have only half really of their full attendance that they could have, you do have to kind of go out on a limb, and it doesn't surprise me.
Why do you not think that in NASCAR, when the NASCAR decided to come up with these mile-and-a-half racetracks, that started killing NASCAR? Because there's too many of them. Too many guys get out front in one of them races, and then nobody else leads. That's the reason you have to go back to Rockingham, North Wilkesboro, where they're banging every time going. Why do you think people like Daytona? Why do you think people like Talladega? Because they know that these cars are all together. They're going to be banging. Even when you go to Martinsville, when you go to Bristol, when you go to some of them tracks like that, people are going to watch those. Well, they're tired of watching them mile and a half where nothing happens.
You just brought up a good point. Would that be a way to maybe bring back North Wilkesboro's cover it in dirt? as opposed to repaving.
That
and
would not
fixing.
be a problem. I would go okay
And
with that. I just
Rockingham,
think it's hard for Bristol.
The places they've lost.
Because
Talk about New
you
Hampshire
always
on here,
have
too.
good races at Bristol. Whether you don't have to bring in dirt to make them good races. They're good races, whether it's in the spring or the fall or whenever.
Wonder why you think
there.
they're having less fans at the spring race? You got any ideas or thoughts? I really.
You
I
think
can't
people are
think.
just going out of town?
That's what
About
I don't know.
around those weekends.
No, you have to see
springtime,
when it's
nicer
scheduled.
season.
But I just
You
think
know.
it was something that dad and son used to do together, watch the race, and they're just not doing it like they used to. I mean, because when I first came in the late 90s, everybody had on Jeff Gordon T-shirt, Dale Earnhardt T-shirt.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, me and my
Terry
dad-
Labonte T-shirt. You know,
My
but you just
my
don't see them.
cousin, if he is listening or not, but he'll test this. My cousin and his dad, they love NASCAR. They watched it together. Me and my dad, we never watched NASCAR because we're just not NASCAR fans. So it's just one of those things where we would watch football on Sundays when people would watch races on Sundays. That's how that is. But you're right, Tom, in the sense is that's how NASCAR has its fan base. You grew up and you watched it around with your family. If it wasn't in your family, you're not just automatically drawn to it unless you're a gearhead.
I think what they could also do is kind of like baseball did this year, shorten it down a little bit, shorten some of these races.
Make it a
shorten the
sprint.
That's
season.
what made
Yeah.
baseball great.
Yeah.
And just like Hunter said last week and the week before, when they took the baseball and went from 162 down to 60, you was more interested
Because
of
everything
what was
meant
happening. It all
more.
meant something. And then when you got to the playoffs, it was 8 teams now, and it was the best 2 out of 3, you know, and everything made a whole lot more
Right.
sense. But now when you come into next year, you're going to go back to that 162-game season again, and you're going to lose them the fans that was there.
Yeah, and you know,
You're gonna lose 'em.
if NASCAR does that, maybe make it a sprint more than a marathon. Of
Yeah.
course, but that means you have to get obviously owners to be able to
Then
sign
who you
off
gonna cut-
on
and
it.
then who you
how
gonna
you gonna
cut?
pay?
Who's-
Yeah,
who's getting
gonna,
cut?
Who's getting
Who's
cut?
getting
Because
cut?
who's gonna make money? You know, who's gonna get the money? Who's not gonna make the money?
All right, JP, you ready in there?
He's got his finger up. Not that finger, JP. There you go, Kevin. I got it for you.
JP wouldn't do that.
All right, JP, how often do you give people that finger?
Never.
Really?
Never done the middle.
I gave it
I'm
to
proud
somebody
of you.
yesterday
I've
when I was
never
driving in
flipped them
Charlotte.
off. I've never given the bird.
I'm proud of you. Have you ever given someone the feather?
I don't even know what that is, so no.
All right, JP, we'll take a break, folks. We come back. We got NFL picks. We'll talk baseball playoffs and NBA finals in just a few moments.
Nowadays, buying a new car